Hello, welcome to our program. Today we're presenting the first of two programs concerned with the Weston family. We have with us in the studio today, and I'd like to introduce you to them as we go from my left to the right. We have first Brett Weston, we have Cole Weston, and Neil Weston. And we are here today to talk about their relationship with their dad, Edward Weston, a man who became a legend in his own time, and certainly as time has progressed, the legend has not diminished. The magic of the Weston image is as alive today, if not more so, than it was during the time of Edward's life. And I'd like to take this opportunity now to talk to Brett and ask him a little bit about how it was to grow up with a man like Edward Weston.
Well, Steve, he was a tremendous person and a great teacher, I think, and a great father.
Now, you, I think, traveled with him a good deal, for example, to Mexico, didn't you, as a
We left in 1925, and I
Oh.
began photography there at that time. And he didn't attempt to influence us too much, just basic fundamentals, chemistry, and the simplest things. And he left me alone.
Pretty much left you alone with your view camera. Huh?
I used the old Graflex
Yeah.
to begin with as a view camera.
Well, today most people are using 35mm small handheld cameras, and I suspect that the view camera that was famous with Edward and with you people both is something that a lot of people might not know too much about. So why don't you give an example of the size, the kinds of setups that you'd have to give under Edward's tutelage, for example, with a camera, a view camera?
Well, I used the old Graflex as a view cam on the tripod, also handheld occasionally, and at that time I didn't have a true view camera. He had the 8x10 view camera. And,
so you started out with the Graflex?
Yeah.
What about you, Cole? Did you get kind of the same kind of training?
Yes, I think my first camera was the old Auto Graflex. In fact, I think I got it from Brett.
we did a little horse train,
Yeah,
as I
a little
recall.
horse train.
Yeah.
My first one was a 4x5 Auto, which I still have.
Oh,
Same
darn.
one,
Yeah.
yes.
And then, Neil, you also, I think, did some work as a youngster, didn't you?
Very little.
Yeah.
I had I think a Brownie, or
Yeah.
one of these Kodaks that pull out.
The had the bellows on
Yeah,
it?
right.
Yeah.
And but I just did it. There were snapshots of friends. I never really got into it seriously. In fact, I haven't up until today.
Now, I know Brett was in Mexico with Edward. Were you guys with him at the same time?
No.
No,
Chan
we-
went,
Chan?
the other brother.
Right.
at a different time.
Different time,
You
yeah.
know. And we took other trips.
And, for example, you were all in Southern California for a while, weren't you?
Well, we were raised there.
Yeah.
And our childhood was spent there.
And,
But part of it in Carmel, too.
Well,
around high school and several
right.
years, weren't you?
Well, it depended on where Dad went. What happened really, we traveled. He and our mother were divorced, and so we traveled back and forth whenever, which was very nice because we never had any pressure of this divorced family. We could go with the father when we wanted, and so we sort of traded off. And one time Neil would be in San Francisco with Dad, and I would be in Los Angeles with my mother. Brett was in Mexico, and so it was a very free and easy relationship, which made it very nice.
Now, what was the, I suspect both of you started out very young. I know you, I think, started using a camera pretty effectively by the time you were 12, is this correct?
12, 13, yes.
Yeah. You too?
No, I was a little bit later. Actually, my first camera was about 16 when I had my first Auto Graflex. And didn't go into it really seriously until I was in the service, when I was a photographer in the service. And then after I came out, I was with Life, and then I did more and more.
Neil, what would you say was the most difficult thing about Edward as a father? The thing that
That's quite a question.
yeah, well, you know, I mean, having a guy like, of course, we look at Edward from the standpoint of a titan in the photographic field. The guy is fantastic.
Well, it was that part of it didn't have any difficulty for us. He was a marvelous father. We always thought he was.
Well, I've
We
seen
all
some of
loved him very dearly.
wherever he was, on a birthday or something, he would send you a photograph, and then it would very often have some kind of a fancy inscription on the back of it, and
Right.
which showed a good deal of, I would say, affection He
Oh,
expressed his
enormous.
affection.
Tremendous, and
Yeah.
we reciprocated and just thought he was the
He was a great
greatest father
friend
in
and a
the
great
world.
parent, you know, and a great stimulator.
Also, I know that he was somewhat of an athlete. You were telling me one time about that people reading the day books get a somewhat distorted image of Edward as a person.
Yes, I think that he was only 5'5", and we are all about pretty much the same size, around 5'11", 5'10 and a half, 5'11". But he always used to, well, when he was young, he was quite an athlete, an archer, a runner. And,
He shot in the Olympics,
yeah,
Cole.
I know that he did, yeah.
Archery
Yes.
in the Olympics?
He was a fine
And he
sprinter.
used to love to take us all on as young, we were young men on the Carmel Beach and try and outrun us and out broad jump us. It was,
Yeah.
So he was actually quite an athlete, and he loved sports. He loved sports, even to his dying days. He
Watch
watched
boxing
television.
matches.
And,
Football.
Yes, so.
Well, this is, of course, I think a side of Edward Weston that is not generally known about.
He loved boxing.
My earliest memories are in Glendale, listening to the Tunney Dempsey fight, standing on the Glendale Boulevard out with Dad outside with a
There was
radio,
one
an
radio
outside
on.
radio, one radio. We didn't have one. We went uptown to listen to it. So,
Oh, boy. Well, I also think that one of the things that makes kind of a fantastic impact on photographers of today is the simplicity with which Edward worked in terms of equipment and his darkroom. Neil, I think you probably could describe to me the basic ingredient in his darkroom. I think it's still standing pretty much as Edward left it.
Well, his last one is not, but I built it, so I remember how it exactly was. It was only about 6 by 10 or 12 feet with a sink and a bench for his printing frame and another bench, and that was about it. It was absolutely the most simple darkroom you could imagine, and he worked there for many years.
Well, this is something that I think today people would have difficulty believing, and I would like to show a few of his prints now. We have some prints in the studio on an easel here, and we'll get them on camera. This is a photograph that Cole took of his father. This was at Point Lobos, Cole?
yes, 1946.
And this was late in his life. At this time, I believe, Parkinson's disease was giving him a lot of trouble.
Well, it had just started, actually.
Now, let's go on to the next print here. This is one of his famous nudes.
It's very early.
What's the date on this? About 32?
Early 30s, I'd say, Steve.
No, I think it's in the. I think it's earlier than that.
Earlier than that?
It's in the 20s. Yes. I just looked at the back of it, and I should know. I've been working with this.
Let's go on to the next print, please.
He did a tremendous number of nudes.
This is the famous Pepper.
It's the most famous. This print is the most sold print of, the most sought-after print of any of his prints.
It has a richness that's unbelievable. And when, again, Neil talking about his darkroom,
I
the
think
simplicity, this man mastered every element, didn't he, that he was working with.
He
I
kept
think-
it simple so he had control of everything.
They're cutting the
They're
shells
cutting
off.
the verticals are being cut off
Yeah,
pretty
I see
badly.
they are.
So
I don't know if we can back that camera up a little bit to then refocus it
That's
here.
better.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
better.
Okay, and that's a little bit better. We're still getting some cropping, but of course you can't, on a television screen, catch the beauty of the Western print anyway because it's detail. Let's go to the next one, please. This is a portrait of Robinson Jeffers, another very famous Carmelite.
Done in 1929.
Now this was, Torhouse was under construction.
That was Torhouse. No, he was leaning against Torhouse right there.
I see.
That was a handheld Graflex portrait.
Wow. Let's go on to the next one, please. Where is this?
I think this is in Arizona. Actually, it's one of his many desert trips which he took, and this was.
Is that the Guggenheim?
I think this was in the Guggenheim. I'd have to look at the coding in the back. After all, he did some 3,000 negatives, and I remember lots of them. But
Well, you are printing so many of them. But let's go to the next one, please. Famous sand dune.
in Oceano.
Oceano. This is down where you were raised, isn't it? In
No,
Southern
it's
California?
Pismo Beach.
Oh, Pismo.
Near Pismo.
Yeah. Next one. Death Valley.
Dante's View, Death Valley.
This
Yeah.
is 5,000 feet up at Dante's View. And
Next one, please.
This is another very famous halved artichoke,
This
which is
certainly appropriate for our country here in Monterey,
yes.
and with Castroville being the artichoke capital of the world, huh?
Yes, and also the problem with the Odelo artichoke fields being brought
Yes,
up.
great
I have to get a little plug there.
By all means. Go ahead, the next one, please. Fine. This gives you some idea of the kind of effectiveness that Edward had with his simplicity. I think that I get the time signal. We have 3 minutes for this segment to button it up, and so I'd like to go back to you again and comment just momentarily about the latter phases. I believe during the latter part of Edward's life, you and Brett were doing a lot of his printing.
Yes.
Was this
yes.
pretty much of a taskmaster about quality?
Oh, yeah. Yes, in 1946, I came up to work with him and worked with him until he died in 1958. And he was quite a taskmaster, very positive of what he wanted. And even though he was failing from Parkinson's disease, he still had, his mind wasn't, physically he was, but he was, he would oftentimes work all day on 1 or 2 negatives to get exactly the thing that he wanted. And it was quite difficult.
You printed a large exhibition, didn't you?
Well, the portfolio, and then about, I made probably 5,000 prints from 800 negatives.
5,000? Wow.
All in that little darkroom which I just described.
It took about 6 or 8 months.
As I say, that so many of us today don't understand the precision and the mastery that is required to produce artwork of this caliber in a small space. Neil, your remembrance of this period, I think, has to do also with something that you people are going to be doing with your dad's darkroom and home.
Well, I own the land in which his studio is situated, and Cole and I are going to restore it, hopefully the way he used to have it, all the furnishings and the darkroom and everything, and use it as a studio and a sort of a center for Edward Weston on the West Coast, in fact, the main center in the world for his works, and do portfolios and sell prints.
And sell his photographs?
Sell his photographs.
Yeah. Okay, and the restoration, is it pretty near completion? Or
no, it hasn't started.
I see.
In fact, it may not start for a while yet. We have to get organized, and Cole has other things he's doing, and so do I. But when we do get together, we're going to...
The next segment, when we talk to you on the second segment, we'll talk a little more detail about this project, along with your other projects. And I would say that we have such a short time to really, we've tried to talk a little bit about Edward here in this segment, and we invite you to join us in our next segment. It'll be discussing the Weston sons and their own personal projects, what they're doing now in photography. I think that we've had a good chance to talk with you. I sure appreciate your being with us. I hope everybody's enjoyed talking with you via the video as much as I have in person here. Thank you very much.